Before the lunch, we have the last presentation by Chef Akshay Malhotra. Chef Akshay is an inverse of me. I'm a person coming from computer science and working on food. He started from IT and he went into food. So he was bitten by the culinary bug and moved from IT industry to hospitality. He's a multifaceted person, a gardener, a painter, a book lover, and a brewer, and takes active business decisions, as well as involved in social media representation and marketing. Without much ado, I would like Chef Akshay to talk about an interesting topic which dwells on one of the themes that will be coming up later, the FlavorDB. We'll be explaining you what is FlavorDB, what is a database, etc. Chef Akshay is explicitly going to talk about how can FlavorDB help us decoding the relationship between mythology and taste. He will explain us better about what he means by that, and he is going to provide a chef's perspective. So Chef Akshay, it's all yours.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Doctor, for having me here. It's a good day. It's a nice day. I'm a cook by profession. I cook. I worked in hotels with Chef Manjeet Gill for 10 years. Before that, I was in the US, trained at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. Worked at the Ritz-Carlton, did the whole 9 yards. I still call myself a cook.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So I still call myself a cook. And why? Because
Thank you. So hi, great. I can move around now. Yes. I have great stage fright and so yeah, let's come back. I'm a cook. Why did I come here? For the past year and a half, I've been interacting with Dr. Bagla, and I found it really interesting what FlavorDB could provide. I've tried it in a couple of projects, and I use FlavorDB. As of now, I say it's a tool which I use to enhance or to actually helps me prove the point when I go with my chef's feel. I go with what I feel from my gut. So that's really important. So FlavorDB is turning out to be a tool which I use to prove to the world, yes, it'll work. So if we head back, let's start. So computational gastronomy is the use of the data points which have been collected over a period of time, mostly based on the Western philosophies of taste and flavors and understanding flavors. But today I wanted to ask you, how can we make it more workable in the Indian scenario? To feed the number of people that we have to feed, we really have to see the way things were done in the past, as a doctor said earlier, Dr. Dalal. It's almost 11,000 years, he said, that we have reached this point today. Now, to move ahead another 11,000 years, we have to go back a couple thousand years to see how they fed the world. The answers in India will come if we see the books that have been printed behind us. We don't see any single place where you see a book like K.T. Acharya that has all the data in it. No, it's all engulfed into different books. It's in literature, it's in poems. So we were smart enough to put the data points in various places so they reach us some way or the other. And that's the smartness of the way that the data has been transmitted to us over the 5,000 years of this civilization through poems, through Sangam literature. We don't have one single Escoffier book which tells us this is how you produce X, Y, and Z. They speak about how you should change the ingredients every few months. They have a small poem which says, if you're not feeling too good in the morning, please have this. So they've put it down. So those are the data points in today's age that we need to bring down and add into our Flavor DB, which would almost bring us close to the artificial intelligence, or actually give us a program which could answer how do we feed the world for the next 11,000 years. And this is what slowly we're going to try and talk over the next 15-20 years. So let me structure this whole thing a little bit. After working with the Flavor DB, I realized that Flavor DB is not going to be giving us all the answers. Flavor DB is going to help us put the point across in a technical, easier way for the other party to understand, yes, that these new flavors will work in cohesion together, and they will click. And this is how that I have used Flavor DB over the past few months, and you will explain it a little more ahead during. So mythology. So let's go back to mythology. Mythology is what? Mythology is small stories written. Mythology is the Mahabharata, all our books and text, and you don't have to be Hindu. It's the way that the data is getting transmitted to us. Pick up the Panchatantra stories. Those are the ways that we got our data from our ancestors in various forms, and now we just need to open it, unwrap it, understand it. As the stage we are in today, I feel that we are slowly we're not understanding that, because we're not handing the data down to the next generation, owing to the mobile phones and owing to not so many books being printed, so on and so forth. So we need to bring that back. We need to pass this batch of data to the next generation to create the awareness, so that the next generation can use these data points and create food for themselves in a sustainable manner, because it's absolutely essential for them. We spoke about fermentation. We just spoke, I was speaking at our tea break. There are chefs in the West who've used molecular gastronomy. We've used molecular gastronomy for 5,000 years. How else do you explain that we used milk in various forms? Say, for example, I was reading a couple of books and I realized we use milk in a different form for each of our gods. One, we use pure milk in the raw form to Lord Shiva. We make kheer for the next one, so we know that how do you pass on the recipe to the next? For our next god, you make a kheer. Even to increase the life, then you go and make a barfi. So that's the way they have passed on information to us, and the recipe that ensures that we change the form of milk from milk to curd to cheese, to a dessert, keep increasing the amount of sugar as a preservative, and so it's all there. We just have to open the book and try and understand it. And that's what's interesting I find about this whole thing, is that it's right in front of us, it's right there every day, we practice it every day. Monday ko ek bhagwan, Tuesday ko dusre, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's more about their information being passed to us. How do you feed yourself over the whole week, or the next few months, or for the next 5,000 years, because we would have to go back to eat food the way they were eating. The way we are consuming food, there won't be enough over the next few years. The earth, I don't think has the capability to grow so much in terms of grains as we spoke, or carbs. So we would either have to go into the sea to bring out more fish, or we would have to eat like our ancestors did,
So this is what was one of the points that I wanted to speak about. And any questions that I may have would be great. Another thing I wanted to speak to you about is, and a few speakers ahead of me also did mention it, why do people say कि खाना स्वाद नहीं है, a taste नहीं है, chef? Over the 11 years I've cooked in India, I must have heard this at least 2 times a day कि मजा नहीं आया chef, खाना बढ़िया मजा नहीं आया. तो ये मजा, where is it originating from? So I feel, my reading is that in today's world, the ingredients play a very important game for us. All our herbs and spices that we use are so processed, and we're squeezing out all the greatness out of them and using it for a different industry, that we are overspicing our food. क्योंकि अब मजा नहीं आ रहा है. We're unable to create that flavor with those 4 grams of cumin that we were supposed to put, and we're adding exponentially more amount of cumin. But still we're not able to get the taste out because it does not have the essential oils, because the essential oils have been drained out of the cumin and are being used in a different industry altogether. Maybe, I know, a room freshener or whatever, a soap, or a different industry, or cosmetic or a cream industry. So this is the other thing that we need to understand, is that how is the excessive processing of our basic food affecting the outcome. Because how is it possible that food or khichdi that could be made 10,000 years ago or 4,000 years ago or 400 years ago with 4 grams of cumin in a better industrial age cannot be made with about 8 grams of cumin? So there has to be a problem in the way either we don't have the right cumin, we have the wrong, but it's the same DNA. It's just that I think we're over-processing everything, and at the end of the day, in the name of creating identical plates of food, which I think are almost pretty much impossible, because every minute things change in the world. Your mood changes, your tastes evolve, the environment changes. So why should we put so much pressure on creating identical foods for different types of people who have a different approach to food? So this is where we need a better understanding of the entire food processes beyond just production. As of now, we just putting all our minds into how do we produce more. Now we need to understand how that one bite of food that we prepare takes you the whole 9 yards and keeps you full for the 4 hours. So all of these answers, I feel, are once we see in what we are producing and how, and slowly we build on that. So I rest my case here. If there's any question, I'd love to take those.
Yeah, I would like to just point out that you had mentioned to me that FlavorDB, you could use it for a specific food application.
Yes.
Can you just elaborate very briefly on that, about how which aspect of FlavorDB did you use?
Sure. So FlavorDB as an application we used to pair a beverage and a food, which we pretty much eat every day. So how do you use FlavorDB? We had to pair, I can't give too many details, but what I can say is we had to pair a high sugar drink with a potatoy snack food. It all happens every day, but the way we are processing it, way we are adding palm oil into the food, way we are over acidifying our drinks, it at the end of the day goes beyond our gut feel, and FlavorDB helps. We taste food has been altered. So at that point, it was helpful. Yeah.
It's curious to have professionally a cancer biologist.
Okay.
So I have a full training in biotechnology. So recently, for the last 5 years, I'm very much interested in the human gut bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
You must be heard of
Yeah. The probiotic.
Population have
Absolutely, correct.
So when you use this flavor DB,
Uh-huh.
these medical molecules, how they will be interacting with the individual population?
No, so flavor DB,
Can we have the projection if it's possible? What we are eating, what sort of molecules are getting in our gut,
no.
how they are reacting?
Flavor DB will only help you make a decision on what you put inside your mouth. How it reacts inside is not what information.
What recipes we are eating, the combination can we get from the flavor?
Yes, Flavor DB is based on a data set which is based on Hanaroli's flavor graph, and it helps you decide what, or helps you to kind of ratify the data that you've created, that these flavors will go well together.
One last question also. What do you projection of the future of smart food if we say that? In future it could be possible we are getting a routine in form of a tablet?
So that's immaterial actually. That's immaterial. A smart food would be food that we can produce in a sustainable way and feed the whole world for the next 11,000 years. So that's going to be smart food. Smart food will not be over-processed food. Over the past so many hundreds of years, we've seen over-processing is actually killing us now. And so I think smart food will be food which does not decide for us. Smart food will be food what we decide to eat. So that's what we need. Yeah, hopefully.
One question, Dr. Mitali, you also have one? Yeah. Let's take these two
Sure.
questions.
So last time you gave a demo of the flavor DB and the usability
Yeah.
of it if the chef's knowledge
Is added on,
gets
correct.
into it, right? So as I understand flavor DB, it also provides you optional food for the same flavor,
Yes.
right? To replace with another food, you might also end up having similar pairing. So have you attempted that kind of a thing, that what you think by your gut feeling should click
Yes.
actually gives a similar structure there, and have you then attempted it and got back the same?
Yes, actually we have. I can give another small example based on that. There's so many products which are identical. Say for example, the Nimbu. You have the pila wala, you have the green wala, you got the grapefruit, you got the orange. So then Flavor DB will help you actually pinpoint, and then at the end of the day you say, oh yeah, it was in front of me, the answer was in front of me, but it just helped you reach there. At times you get this mental block and you say, no, we have to use this only, in the recipe it says only use this, but you have the alternative right in front of you. So as soon as you change the paradigm a little bit, the answer is right there in front of you.
What I'm trying to arrive at is because locally, traditionally, many people would have similar kind of food, but
Yeah.
source plant would be a little different in different
Correct.
parts of the country, right?
Correct.
For example,
Correct.
you know the biryani, it's biryani, but you cannot pinpoint why do you say it is biryani, even if it comes from Lucknow or Hyderabad or
Correct.
some other place, because they would have used different sources.
Yeah.
So do they culminate into some kind of a similar thing in the flavor DB is what was my question, because that is
Yeah, it will.
Ayurveda as a medicine is sourced from different parts of the country, but at the end the doctors would say that they have similar properties at the end of the day. Maybe it could be a chemical entity or it could be a flavor. So that's why I was thinking that.
Sure, it works on those lines. Huh?
You can get reference levels. Toronto, for example, we are conducting a study for PepsiCo and Burger King. Burger King is PepsiCo's client. And by default, every burger is paired with cola. And that's when we connected with Dr. Bagler and brand managers of Mirinda, 7-Up, Mountain Dew, Lipton tea, which is a healthier option. So they wanted to really understand if a particular burger would go better than, let's say, cola. So we are midway through the study, but don't mind, it's a public study. Consumers from over 9 cities are participating here. What happens is, you look at taste profiles, you look at flavor data, in terms of, that Venn diagram, what is the commonality in terms
Sure.
of composition. But humans are humans, right? We can talk about heroes, we can talk about multiple other things, but when it comes to tasting, experiencing food in a real world, we behave very, very, very differently. So what we do is, for example, any burger which is high on umami, right, which is the fifth basic taste as per the global framework, it tends to go very well with cola. Like you and I, we were discussing yesterday. Now the gene responsible for umami and sweet is the same. So you have high umami in burgers which are heavy on chicken and spicy and cola. So you can measure perception, right? A consumer is the one who gives you data point on perception. So you give that burger with Pepsi Cola, you give the same burger with Mirinda, then with the Mountain Dew, 7-Up and Lipton. So, and then you pick up top three sort of combination. And then you take them nationwide in terms of how people with these three top combinations rate their perception. So based on the data available, midway through the study, there is a 92% rank correlation.
Very good.
So the compositional analysis and the taste-based pairing we did, consumers are sort of endorsing that. So that it was important for me to highlight.
Why not? Why not?
Akshay thought not to discuss because of confidentiality reason. It is no longer confidential. It's out in the market. So I thought.
Thanks for pitching in.
Due to what you developed.
Thanks for pitching in. Thanks, Jaspalji. That was Mr. Jaspal Sabarwal from PackTaste. So thank you once again, Chef Akshay, for coming forward and expressing your views about food pairing, utility of food pairing, and thanks also to Jaspal Sabarwalji about telling us about how the data that we have compiled and the database that we have made is, while it is not giving you perfect answer, it's aiding the intuition of a chef and it's aiding the intuition of a marketeer. Yeah, in a big way. So let me thank Chef Akshay for coming here, and let's also join our hands together to wish Chef Akshay a happy birthday. It was nice of him to take time out of his birthday schedule along with his better half to be here and to participate in that shows his commitment towards gastronomy and computational gastronomy and the endeavors that we are working together. Thank you, Chef.
Thank you.
Right.